Hello, my name is Dylan McFry. I'm here today to walk you through the summary of my assignment based off of the module of Flexible Educational Resources for ITEC 7603. I will begin by detailing 4 educational resources that helped me gather just an idea of what educational resources are and how best to use them in class. Resource number 1 would be this blog post from Jennifer Gonzalez, a closer look at open educational resources from Cult of Pedagogy. She does a very good job in this article of breaking down just what it means for an educational resource to be open and how it's important for students to not have any barriers in the way of their use of these resources. Otherwise, they will quickly abandon them. So she does a very good job of explaining what these resources are and how they can be effective and why it's important for teachers to pay attention to them because they're only going to continue to grow in popularity and grow in usage in the future years. My second resource number 2, is from gettingsmart.com. It is the article How Learning Will Work in the Near Future. And this article does a great job. It was a great resource for me because it showed different components of what next generation online resources are going to look like and what they need to contain. For example, they need to be learning tools, relationship tools for monitoring progress. It has to contain content because we no longer have textbooks. Online resources will now be our main content delivery methods. Assessment tools, grade books, profiles, portfolios, different personalization. So these are all aspects of what these resources need to be in order to be effective. Resource number 3 was from smeckenseducation.com. The article is titled Organize Your Digital Resources. It just gives different examples of online platforms that organize resources for student use. One that I will make use of in the future is Symbaloo. I like the sleek look of it. I like the design of having multiple cells included on the main page so that we can use them and students can look and see what they want to use. They can choose from them, and they're all contained in one place, which is easier so students don't have to follow multiple steps of directions. Fourth resource that I want to use is from Educational Innovation. It is, once again, going through open educational resources. This is from the University of Wisconsin. And like the first resource that I used, this resource does a great job of breaking down the mission and vision behind the use of open education resources and how they benefit teachers. I'll move on now to show you an example of a menu, a perfectly curated menu of resources that students can use. I do not have my iPad screen available to stream from this video as I'm using my MacBook, but I can pull up the icon. The app ZuluDesk is included on every student iPad. All students have iPads and they all have ZuluDesk. What ZuluDesk is, it has a list of apps that students can look through and choose to download to their iPad to use for school assignments. So it's a great open educational resource example because students are able to, depending on what assignment they're working on, they're able to look through a list of resources and choose which one they want to use to complete their assignments. Every student has it on their iPad. It is not blocked for anyone, so everyone has the opportunity to use this. It's open all the time, and it is included on their device. So all students are able to take advantage of it. So it's a wonderful example of educational resources that I make use of on a daily basis in class, from taking notes all the way to major project grades. Students are able to browse through the list of apps, download what they need. Here's a larger picture. You see there's an app list. It shows them how to use it and details how it can benefit each individual assignment. So students love it. It's a great tool. I'll now move on to 6 total artifacts. The first 3 artifacts I'm going to go over are ways in which I have made educational resources available to my students. The first is the app that I'm currently showing you. Well, it's not an app, but rather it contains the apps, and that is the ZuluDesk app, which is included on the iPad. This is one example of how I make educational resources available to students. Every student has it on their iPad, so as we go through and we take assessments, and especially as we do projects, I like to give students the opportunity to choose how they finish the project and how they display mastery, so they're able to then choose from ZuluDesk's list of apps and download what they need in order to complete their work and show mastery. The second resource that I've used, or the second artifact for making these resources available to students, is Schoology. Schoology is an online platform that we at Gordon Central High School have made great use of. It is a way that we can contain everything that we teach, every resource that we use in our classes on one online platform. Students are automatically logged in, so all they have to do is open their iPad, go to Schoology, and they can then they can see what we do each day in class. They can see all the notes and PowerPoints that we use. They can see any other interactive notebook assignment, daily grades, any past tests, quizzes, or projects that we're working on. Over here to the side, you even see there's a list of other resources that are not even included in class. There's things like Brain Pop, Discovery Education, Infinite Campus. So Schoology is a perfect example of how I make resources available to students. Finally, I had to use a Google screenshot, and it may seem counterintuitive for why I used this, but I am including Twitter as my third artifact for making resources available to students. Social media is blocked on the school Wi-Fi. However, I make use of Twitter by joining professional learning networks. And by joining these PLNs, I not only get great ideas of educational resources to use, but I also learn different teaching strategies and techniques for implementing them in class. Also, while we can't use them in class, I can encourage students to make their own Twitter account and join their own student learning networks so that they can get better at class and learn not only the class content, but also learn different technology resources to make use of to help them do better in class. So finally, the last three artifacts I have are examples of how I use these different resource lists to monitor the effectiveness of how these resources are doing. The first, I'm going to go back to Schoology, and specifically, I have a quiz in the Test Quizzes Projects folder. This is the Punnett Square quiz that we recently took, and this quiz helped me monitor how effective this was, or this educational resource was, because I was able to identify the results of the quiz. I was able to see who did well, who did not so well, and also overall the scores. So I can also see not only student results, but also results by question, so the average score on each question. So I was able to ascertain how effective the resources the students were using to prepare for this quiz were. So that was a good way of monitoring. The second way in which I was able to monitor student effectiveness for educational resources was a project that we worked on. This genetics unit project basically involved students choosing from a list of genetic disorders, answering all these questions about them. But they had to create some sort of artifact that demonstrated their understanding. They had the option of PowerPoint, of posters, of brochures, of videos. So they were able to choose what they thought they could use to best display their own mastery. And this tied back into the Zulu Desk because students were able to then go to the list of educational resources, download what they needed, and use that to complete their project. And the third and final artifact I have from this list of how I can monitor the effectiveness of these resources is another assignment that I actually have included on Schoology. So I'll make my way back here. Goodness, I have so many tabs open I can't even find it. Here we are. So back to Schoology, I have an assignment in the Daily Grades folder for my biology class. It is a character cross, and what this assignment was involving students doing, they were practicing Punnett squares and genetic inheritance. They took two cartoon characters, drew them, and picked 5 traits from each one, performed several different Punnett square genetic crosses, and able to make a baby from those 2 cartoon characters, no matter if they were the same sex, opposite sex, or if they were from different shows, whatever. They had their pick of cartoon characters. The kids loved it, they got into it, but also based on the how they completed this assignment and the results that they produced, I was able to then monitor and see, all right, this person did great, so this resource did good for them. Or this student did not do well, they turned in a very bad assignment. I was able to say, what did you use to complete this? And by that way, I was able to then go and ascertain the effectiveness of their particular resources. Okay, so I believe that is a good rundown of overall the Flexible Educational Resource module. I provided 4 resources that helped me get a better understanding of open educational resources. I included my own menu of resources that I make use of in class, that being Zulu Desk. I included 3 artifacts that showed how I make resources available to students. And finally, I included 3 artifacts explaining how I monitor the effectiveness of these resources. Thank you so much.